bless you all.
"77 oil and gas companies in the country owed the federal government of Nigeria in excess of 2,600,000,000,000 naira.
House initiates investigation to recover over 2 trillion naira debts from oil and gas companies. Plus, House leaders host APC national leader and other party stalwarts. The program is House Ticket and I am your anchor Firdausi Ahmad Wakili. Welcome to another episode. In our lineup, we have lawmakers presenting matters of urgent national importance, especially on insecurity, even as lawmakers move to give automatic employment to first-class graduates of tertiary institutions. We also have details of bills passed for first, second, and third reading, as well as reports received and considered. Outside the chamber, investigations into the high cost of aviation fuel continues, just as House moves to recover over 2 trillion naira debts from about 77 oil and gas companies kicks off. All of these and more on this episode of House Ticket. Please stay tuned.
If we set our minds right, embrace each other in love and brotherhood, we will come through these troubling times. We will survive, we will recover, and then we will thrive. One nation under God, free, peaceful, and prosperous.
House Ticket takes off with a review of plenary proceedings as we bring you details of motions, bills, and reports presented on the floor of the House. The details are presented in this first report from our studio. Do stay tuned.
The House further aware that another sad episode...
In the week under review, the House considered a motion on urgent public importance to investigate the Lagos-Ibadan train incident. The motion stood in the name of the House Minority Leader, Representative Ndudi Elumelu.
The House is aware that in recent times, there have been series of media reports of how passenger trains break down in the middle of nowhere for lack of maintenance, thereby subjecting commuters to possible attacks by hoodlums and armed robbers who can brutalize, maim, and cut away hard-earned monies and goods of innocent Nigerians. The House further aware that another sad episode happened on Thursday, the 11th day of March 2022, where a train conveying passengers and goods from Lagos to Ibadan came to a halt midway due to insufficient fuel as alleged.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I was going to emphasize on why this motion is important and public and why it should be earnestly handled. Reason being that it involves the lives of Nigerians. An imprudent and deliberate effort is not made to forestall such situations occurring. Our lives and the lives of Nigerians will be exposed.
Mr. Speaker, I put it to the House that the diesel couldn't show because the meter remained faulty. Otherwise, the train driver ought to know that he's having a quarter tank or a full tank to make the journey. If the train had no way of knowing the quantity of diesel, it means a faulty train we got. If the driver cannot assess the quantity of diesel that can take him, it means an incompetent driver. So whichever you look at it, there must be a status holistic inquiry of what we have, sir.
The House, in voting on the motion, set up an ad hoc committee to conduct an inquiry on the operations of the Nigerian Railway Corporation and rail system in the country and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action.
Mr. Speaker,
on his part, Representative Sada Soli Jibia moved a motion on the urgent need to reinstate the combined security personnel in Jibia local government and its environs in Katsina State.
Concerned that after the abrupt withdrawal of the personnel from Shimpida, the people had to trek for nearly 30 kilometers to find safety in the neighboring Jibia town. Mr. Speaker, my prayer is urging the security personnel, particularly the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Police, and the civil defense that were stationed for these longer years in that place to reinstate them back.
The prayer was voted for and adopted.
Those against say nay. Ayes have it.
Still on motions, lawmakers in the week under review adopted a motion on the need to grant automatic employment to first-class graduates. Representative Chinedu Emeka moved the motion.
The growing rate at which employable first-class graduates of universities in the country are going jobless or leaving the country in droves after the National Youth Service Corps, while the lower grades whose relations are connected get options for first refusal, irrespective of the growing national concern to get the nation best brain abroad, aboard leadership and other positions.
Members contributed for and against the motion.
It will encourage academic corruption, where everybody will try, even as it is today, we are trying to manage the level of corruption that is existing within the tertiary institution in Nigeria. So we should not encourage academic corruption, because if we insist that anybody who gets first class, automatically you get employed, then at every level of the tertiary institution, people will now be pushing people.
If this motion would actually, when subject to the Nigerian factors, lead to an increased excellence in performance, and that we can guarantee the integrity of the education and how the qualifications are obtained, then, Mr. Speaker and my honorable colleagues, I will throw my full support behind this.
And it will be much better that we identify in which area of this first class are we talking about. Is it in the area of technology? Or is it that if I read Hausa I become first class, I should just be given an automatic employment?
But we have to be very careful. Honorable Namdas has just said something. So if you have first class in Hausa language, or you have first class in Igbo language, you have first class in Yoruba language, does that mean you are automatically qualified for people who have 2-1 in other subjects?
What we need today is technological advancement. Even the scholarship you refer to, Your Excellency, it is not every area of endeavor and courses that are giving scholarship to go out and study, The areas of giving are in the sciences and technology. And this is what we would require to move the nation.
There are some degrees that are graded, like MBBS, that is Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. They are graded. So this motion didn't capture that particular discipline.
The House, in adopting the motion, resolved to urge the Federal Ministry of Education to liaise with relevant government agencies to ensure employment for first-class graduates of Nigerian institutions, mandate the Committee on Tertiary Education and Services and Labor, Employment and Productivity to ensure compliance. The House also last week rescinded its decisions on the motion calling on the federal government to save Nigeria from the recurring hardship of petroleum product scarcity.
The House set up an ad hoc committee to determine the state of refineries in the country. Aware that the ad hoc committee is currently meeting with the relevant stakeholders in the petroleum industry and conducting an investigation to find a lasting solution to the recurring petroleum scarcity in Nigeria. Cognizant of the need to allow the ad hoc committee continue its assignment, resolves to rescind its decision on the motion calling on the federal government to save Nigerians from recurring hardship of petroleum product scarcity and add on to the work of the existing committee.
Need to investigate the
Representative Sergius Osei, on his part, moved the motion on the need to investigate the imposition of excessive charges on bank transactions in deposit money banks in Nigeria.
The House is concerned that despite the guide issued by the CBN, some banks still deduct outrageous amounts of money from their customers in the guise of bank charges with different descriptions.
The House adopted the motion. It resolved to mandate the Committee on Banking and Currency to investigate the excessive charges on bank transactions by deposit money banks in Nigeria and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. The incessant banditry attacks, cattle rustling, Kidnappings and indiscriminate killings in Sokoto State was the subject of another motion under matters of urgent public importance brought to the floor by Representative Ibrahim Ali.
Further urged the Chief of Army Staff to immediately establish a military forward operational base at Winki Wurno Junction to cover the 8 local government areas comprising the Sokoto East Senatorial District.
Lawmakers also voted on, adopted and referred to the House Committee on Privatization and Commercialization a motion on the urgent need to save over 900 medical officers from losing their jobs over the termination of the public-private partnership concession agreement on Garki General Hospital, Abuja.
That the FCT administration on 1st of March 2022 gave the management of the hospital notice to vacate and hand over the facility by April 1st, 2022.
As a resolution, the House urged the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, to stay action on the termination of the concession agreement on Garki General Hospital, Abuja, pending the outcome of the intervention of the Committee on Privatization and Commercialization and Health Institutions on the matter. Mandated the Committees on Privatization and Commercialization and Health Institutions to intervene and liaise with the concessionaire, the ICRC, and the FCT administration to resolve the issues for enhanced health care delivery in the Federal Capital Territory. Another motion considered by the House is on the need to reinforce the provisions of the Compulsory Free Universal Basic Education Act 2004 in the Federal Capital Territory and other parts of the country. Representative Bamidele Salam moved the motion.
Worried about the report from UNICEF that Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children in sub-Saharan Africa, and of course the highest in the world.
The House then resolved to urge the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory to ensure full compliance with the provisions of the UBEC Act and the Child Rights Act in the Federal Capital Territory. Also urge UBEC to liaise with the state governments who have adopted the Child Rights Act and the UBEC Act for enforcement of the provisions of the law, and mandate the committees on the Federal Capital Territory and basic education and services to ensure compliance.
A bill for an act.
Meanwhile, several bills passed first, second and third reading in the week under review. 3 bills on real estate regulation were consolidated.
A bill for an act to establish real estate regulations, development and for related matters, House Bill 1896. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
For second reading, the House debated a bill for an act to provide for the statutory regulation of peacekeeping operations by members of the Nigerian Armed Forces, the Nigerian Police, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps and other security organizations, and for related matters.
There's nowhere in our acts, our appropriation acts, over years, where we made provision for armed forces, for policemen, to procure equipment, to train personnel to partake in peacekeeping operations.
The government of purpose that we run here under President Muhammadu Buhari must have had a lot of provisions in different forms. They may not have to be addressed as such, but I can't take that, yes, government has no provision whatsoever in the appropriation of the land to do with peacekeeping. We have so many subheads. We have so many provisions in the finances of the Nigerian armed forces, in the police and what have you. They may not necessarily have to be addressed as funds meant to address specifically foreign missions.
As important as this bill is, there is need for us to have a legislative brief before all of us here. A synopsis, so that we can be able to speak to the bill.
To streamline it and give it statutory, whatever, I think is an interesting bill. So we'll just put the question. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
A bill for an act provide for statutory.
For third reading, the House passed 4 in the week under review, including a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the National Child Protection and Enforcement Agency and for related matters. Still in the course of the week under review, the House received reports from its various committees. These include, among others, the report of the committee investigating importation of adulterated petroleum, the report of the committee that interfaced with airline operators, as well as the report of the committee on the evacuation of Nigerians in Ukraine. The reports will be slated for consideration by the House. Meanwhile, the House in the Committee of the Whole considered reports of the Committee on Health Institutions and Committee on Tertiary Education.
The program is still House Ticket. We continue with reports outside plenary, starting with the public hearing on debts recovery by the ad hoc committee set up to recover about 2.6 trillion naira owed to the federal government. Let us get the details.
We have to do away with the issue of...
If there are challenges, you can always come to the National Assembly.
We must back that effort.
If there was only 2% left, why didn't the ministry inject some money for 20?
Why transferring for the same area that they have operated there? And you expect to come and clap?
We are here today at the invitation of the ad hoc committee.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Representative Femi Gbajabiamila, says the National Assembly is determined to ensure that the federal government fully recovers its money from debtors. The Speaker stated this while declaring open a public hearing on debts recovery at the National Assembly complex. He said 77 oil and gas companies are owing the federal government more than 2.6 trillion naira.
This is a significant sum of money under any circumstances. When the country is confronting significant revenue shortages coupled with an overwhelming need to address long-standing developmental challenges, there is a greater obligation on the government to do all that is necessary to recover these sums. For these reasons, the House resolved to investigate these debts, conduct a proper reconciliation of accounts between the federal government and oil companies, and urge the National Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the National Oil Spill Detection Agency, and the Federal Inland Revenue Agency to provide the data required to facilitate the recovery of debts owed to the federal government by the oil and gas companies.
He called on all stakeholders to support the committee in order to discharge its mandate diligently.
The committee cannot achieve its mandate. It requires the support and cooperation of all the regulators, industry operators, and participants. I'm here on behalf of the Nigerian people to ask all stakeholders to support the committee's efforts. Together we can resolve the issues highlighted by the Nat'l report and ensure that funds accruing to the benefit of the Nigerian people are appropriately accounted for.
The Speaker warned that the House will use its statutory powers against any stakeholder bent on frustrating the efforts of the committee. Deputy Whip of the House, Representative Nkeruka Anyojocha, chaired the 17-member ad hoc committee. She gave an insight into its key objectives.
The objective and scope of this exercise is to urge the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, which is NOSDRA, and the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is FIRS, to provide necessary data needed to facilitate recovery of debts owed the federal government of Nigeria by these oil and gas companies.
Stakeholders made presentation to the committee on the information available to them.
I note very carefully that two major agencies are very key to the disclosures we made. One is the Federal Inland Revenue Service that receives all the taxes. And then the other is the former Department of Petroleum Resources, as at the time of this disclosure, now part of the agencies created by the PIA, that's the DPR, that receive the payments on royalty. So because the disclosures were other taxes in various forms, and then the other was payment of royalty. And we are concerned about 2019, and our report emphasized that these payments were not made as at and when due, as at 20th of December 2020.
The committee had adjourned and is expected to reconvene for further hearing.
And all members.
Meanwhile, the committee investigating the high cost of aviation fuel, chaired by Deputy Speaker Representative Ahmed Idris Wase, has met with more stakeholders, particularly marketers. The chairman started the session by highlighting the resolutions of the committee during its last meeting.
The call during the last meeting, which was held on the Thursday, if I recall, on the 9th of March, we did agree on the following, that the Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authority should come with the following information. list of companies that had been issued license for importation of aviation fuel within the last 3 months. List of companies that had been supplying fuel for the past 1 year. Breakdown of sales of aviation fuel for the past 1 year. Breakdown of the pricing of the aviation fuel for the past 1 year. That the regulatory should identify and put a stop to the operation of the cartel that is creating the artificial scarcity and collecting upfront cash payments from airline operators at the airports. Yes, sir. Thank you. So we can admit it now as authentic coming from you? Yes, sir. Thank you. Colleagues, take note that this document has been admitted and is tendered as a working document for us.
Sir, in terms of how the pricing today has arrived, it is exactly a computation, as the man has said. It's exactly a computation of those of us who source products or who source FX in the open market. You put the rate there. But sir, there are some intricacies that are more nuanced than what I think is being discussed here today.
There are some things that are out of our control. If we can access the US dollar at 410, 415, the price would be different. Unfortunately, we cannot.
The committee concluded the hearing with these remarks from the chairman.
What we have agreed will not come again to have a discussion on it. It's not a prayer. However, I will give it to you and all others that we are going to put it in the clouds there for a monitor of this particular discussion to ensure it is implemented to the fullest.
On party politics, Speaker of the House of Representatives and his deputy commended the APC national leader, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, for strengthening the value of democracy in Nigeria. This happened when the national leader of the APC held a strategic meeting with the APC caucus of the House of Representatives.
That the House of Representatives and the Senate, because my understanding is that you were the Senate earlier on today, and you deemed it that this institution that perhaps is the center of democracy worldwide deserves your visit, deserves that the people, you deserve their ears to hear what you have to say.
And this is the first time a presidential candidate is searching, giving value to those is due, to consider this very important constituency. So we thank you for this visit.
I'm very proud of myself.
In his remarks, the APC national leader said the legislature is the engine room of democracy, which should be respected and supported for democracy to thrive.
The legislation must represent the cause of the people. And I can truly say that this nation has been blessed with men and women like you who has imbued National Assembly with the spirit of democracy.
The APC leader then solicited the support of the lawmakers towards his presidential ambition. In related news, the chairmanship aspirant of All Progressives Congress, APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, has met with members of the APC caucus in the House of Representatives. While appreciating the lawmakers, Senator Adamu made known the reasons for his visit to the House caucus.
I am here today to see how much rapport we can develop, how much understanding, how much of the bridge that is necessary that we need to build for the purposes of the survival of our great party. You are probably the first, after the Senate, group outside the Senate that I'm having to talk to in the entire country.
He called on the APC caucus at the National Assembly and all stakeholders to continue supporting the ideals of the party. Deputy Speaker of the House, Representative Ahmed Idris Wase, thanked the APC chairmanship candidate saying APC under Abdullahi Adamu will be a pride of the North Central.
The distinguished senator is given this position as a member from the North Central. It will be our pride. As a member of the Old Plateau, it will be our pride. And within the family, political family, it will also be my single opportunity and pride. So thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
It has been an enlightening time on House Ticket as we recounted the events of last week in the House of Representatives. From bills to motions to committee engagements. It has been a very busy time for our federal lawmakers. We will continue to keep you updated both on NTA Parliament and any of our social media platforms showing on your screen. Until I come your way again, stay safe.